cars at that time. He had a car, and the sessions judge of his district would go to the courtroom on a Tonga. I remember sometimes sitting with him in the car. He would drop us at the school. He would see the Tonga carrying a sessions judge to the court premises. He would stop his car till the Tonga reached the court premises. That was the respect for the judges. So we have seen this with our own eyes. Good old days when a lawyer's respect was so much in the society and a judge's respect was even more in that society. And that had nothing to do with anything else except the nobility of the cause that they were pursuing, both of them. Unfortunately, things have changed. Unfortunately, although there was a very recent period around 2007 to 2009 when the legal community earned respect even for another thing. Not just that they were lawyers, but they had championed a very big cause of independence of judiciary. And I could see that the respect for the lawyer in the society was even further enhanced. The story, unfortunately, after that is not all that rosy. You are entering a profession which has all the potential of offering you respect. It's up to you to receive it with your conduct. So the conduct that you have to display, will earn you respect, because respect is already there because of what you do. You have to earn it with your conduct so that nobody can raise a little finger at you. That's the other message that I wanted to convey. Now, I'll tell you something, what Lord Denning had told us in England. In the Union Society in Cambridge, we had invited Lord Denning to address the Law Society. And after his speech, we gave him a 10 minutes standing ovation. We would not sit down till he forced us to sit down. He said such wonderful things. And I'll just convey to you the gist of what he said. He said, in order to be a good lawyer, you have to have command over three things. Number one, history. Number two, mathematics. Number three, literature. We were totally taken aback. We said, what about law? He said, you didn't hear me properly. I said, in order to be a good lawyer, you need to have command over these three things. So I presume that you are a lawyer already. Now you want to be a better lawyer, a good lawyer. So you know the law. I presume that's the starting point. He said history, because every law is made in some historical context. Today, we are passing through a phase where terrorism as a law is some topic which is very hot in the courts. Every other day we have cases of terrorism, lawyers and judges dealing with terrorism. But a few years down the lane, when inshallah we'll come out of this phase, the lawyers and judges will wonder that what was the background in which this law was made and why the law is so stringent. So in order to understand the stringency of the law, the provisions of the law, you will have to know the historical background. And that is true of every other law that you will be dealing with. Every law must have been framed in a particular historical setting. You have to know that historical background so to understand each and every word of that legal provision or the enactment. So you have to have command over history, the starting point. You know the law, now you know the history in which this law was made. The second step, he said, is mathematics. You know the law, you know the historical background, but as a lawyer you have to come up with an argument. If an argument is 2 plus 2 makes 5, it will not be acceptable. If it makes 2 plus 2 is equal to 3, It will not be acceptable. Your argument has to be mathematically precise. And by the way, Lord Denning had a double maths degree before he became a judge. That's why he was a legend. So you know the law, you know the historical background, you know the spirit of the law, the historical perspective. You know, you have come up with an argument in your mind, but it is still in your mind. It may be a beautiful argument, a very precise argument, but it is only in your mind. As a lawyer, you have to convey your thought and your argument to another mind. That is the judge. How do you convey something in your mind to another mind? It's through the medium of language. And literature teaches you how to use the most appropriate words. So this is how Lord Denning told us that in order to be a good lawyer, you have to have command over history, mathematics, and literature. Without literature, command over literature, you cannot pick the right word for what you want to convey. For one word, there may be 15 different options available in the thesaurus, in the dictionary. But just to convey the right kind of argument to another mind, you have to pick the precise word which fits. So this is what I wanted to convey, what Lord Denning had told us. So maybe 40 years down the lane, you will be conveying it to some others, but that's good work. Now that you are entering the legal profession, when I was young, our elders used to say that such and such is very good with words, he speaks so much, he'll become a lawyer, ye vakil banega. Bahut baatein karta hai. But when I came to the profession, I thought that that was not correct. My experience as a judge was, and even as a lawyer also, that all you need is hard work. You have to prepare your case well in your own chamber. And if you have a sound argument, or through your hard work you have found the exact ruling on the point, you don't even have to argue the case. You just have to present the book before the judge, and you will win the case. So you don't really have to be very articulate if you have worked very hard. Articulation is an added advantage. But the first thing is, you have to have command over your facts, you have to have command over the legal provisions, and you have to convey it. And that hard work, if conveyed, will do the trick. Don't worry, you will win the case. You don't have to be a good speaker all the time. Then another thing that I wanted to convey to you, the young lawyers in the making now, is that previously a lawyer was just to look at the law, make his arguments, find out in his library the relevant precedent cases, and to argue his cases. But now when you are entering the profession in this day and age, a lawyer has to be a much more well-rounded personality. If you go to a court of law today, it's not just one statute that you are dealing with. Unfortunately or fortunately, in this country, every social issue, every economic issue, every political issue ultimately ends up in a court of law. So unless you are a well-rounded personality, unless you have your knowledge about different disciplines in the society is also up to the mark, it may be difficult for you to really understand the scope of the arguments that you have to build before a court of law. So try not just to remain within the legal field, also read books from other disciplines. Keep yourself informed through newspapers and magazines and journals and books. All other disciplines, you must have at least a bare minimum knowledge of all these disciplines. The last thing that I want to say here is that today you have become a lawyer, you have a degree in your hand, tomorrow you have to go to a court of law. But I can assure you that when you go to a court of law or a chamber of a senior lawyer, the clerk in that chamber, the munshi, will be knowing much more about the practicalities in that profession, the practicalities involved in that profession. He will tell you how to file a bail application. He'll tell you how the cases are fixed, how the applications are drafted, how appeals are drafted, and what things are to be placed where in the entire legal system. So my emphasis throughout has been to law colleges that kindly, while you are making them lawyers, also groom them for lawyering. They have become advocates, but to be a lawyer, you know, you want to have adequate knowledge of what goes on in a court of law. So whenever you get an opportunity, do, sir, introduce courses of grooming lawyers, and that is why at some stages I've been suggesting that after you get a degree or you are about to get a degree, like a doctor has to undergo a house job, there should be a house job for a law student as well before he can get a degree, so he can combine his academic knowledge with the practical knowledge. Thank you very much, Professor Humayun Ahsan. I was very reluctant to accept any invitation, but this was an invitation that I could not refuse. It's my own institution. I have such a long association with Professor Humayun Ahsan. My students are members of the faculty here. I couldn't say no, and thank you very much for honoring me by inviting me. Thank you.